Hi everyone, I have a very special video for you guys today. I am doing collaboration with my design team member from Webster's Pages. Her name is Andrea. You may also know her as the Mint Green Polka Dot or Creative Creations. She and I are going to be sharing how we use stamps in our planners. I can't wait to show you how to do this, so let's go ahead and get started. I have been loving using these stamps by Bella Creations. I especially love using this line stamp for my ring band planners and this other line stamp which is a little bit shorter for my Erin Condren. She also has these wonderful check boxes and hearts to use in conjunction with making your lists. Another stamp set that I love to use is by Sweet Stamp Shop. Now, Sweet Stamp Shop also has this check box with a line stamp, and you can create lists with those as well as some of these other icons with the star and the heart if you didn't want that square for your tick box. Another stamp that I used to use is this stamp here called the Muji stamp. It's been sold out for a while now, but I still love using that, and that's actually a rubber stamp versus the other stamps which are clear stamps. Now I'm going to be doing this a little bit differently. I'm not actually going to be stamping directly onto my pages because I know some of you have some difficulty doing that. I'm going to be using some labels as well as these pigment inks and chalk inks to stamp onto the label paper, and then we're going to later on transfer it onto the actual planner. So let me grab my label paper. Now this label paper I have found, which is by Avery. It's the label number 5452. It fits perfectly into those week on 2 page inserts. Now I'm going to be using a couple of the stamps that I mentioned just to show you guys that any of these stamps will work fine with this label paper. I'm going to be stamping with Prima Chalk Ink Edger onto the stamp here just to make sure it's evenly coated. So now I'm going to go ahead and make sure I use good technique and stamp that stamp right onto the label. I want to stamp it more towards the edge as much as possible. Next, I'm going to be using the stamps by Bella Creations, and I'm using that line stamp first. And I love using these types of stamps to kind of layer them on because I can use many different types of inks to make it color coordinate with the decorations in my planner. So I'm going to be stamping this clear stamp. Now if you're not familiar with clear stamps, again you need to peel them off and you will need a stamp block. You can refer to how to stamp and some stamping techniques in my previous video, which I will link below in the description bar. So I really want to make sure I get that stamp nice and lined up onto my stamp block. And then I'm going to be using pigment ink by Mama Elephant and just dabbing the ink directly onto the stamp, making sure again that it's evenly coated. And then we're going to stamp this as far to the left edge as possible. So for this next one, I wanted to do something a little different, and I wanted to see how it would look like if I stamped it in the pink. So I'm again using the Prima Chalk Edger in the color pink and stamping that directly onto the label. Now I'm going to go back in and create those tick boxes. I'm going to be using these circles in the Bella Creation stamp set for my check boxes. So again, the reason why I love using stamps in my planner is because I can get really creative with these stamps. Instead of making the lines and the check boxes all one color, I can use the lines in one color and then I can use my check boxes in another color. So for in this example, with the green lines, I'm going with the pink check boxes. And then for the pink, I will use green check boxes. So I've decided that I wanted to stick with the green lines and the pink check boxes. All I've done is just stamped the rest of the check boxes and the lines on the other side of the label paper. Now I'm going to take my Fiskars paper trimmer and I'm just going to trim this label paper down the middle. I want to make sure I want to get as close as possible to the edge of the stamp. I'm going to do this on both sides. Now once I'm done with this, I'm going to put this aside and we're going to place that into my planner in just a bit. But before I do that, I want to show you guys another great example of how to use stamps to create stickers for your planner. Next, we're going to be creating some really fun stickers. I'm going to be using stamps on these little round circle labels, and I'm going to be using my stamps to create a little bit more details to these images. For example, the little flats I'm going to create into ballet slippers, the birthday gift, and the grocery cart. I'm going to add a couple more lines to make it look a little bit more unique. I'm going to be using some different types of inks here. I'm going to be using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, StazOn Jet Black ink, and Memento Dye ink, and I'll show you why in just a bit. So for my first technique, I'm going to be doing some watercoloring. This is a palette that I got from Michaels, really inexpensive and has a lot of great colors, and I think it's by Artist Loft. Instead of using the brush that's included, I'm going to be using these brushes. These are called watercolor brushes and they are by Pentel. All you need is a paper towel when you're ready to switch up the colors. So in the first row here, I stamped with the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And when you start watercoloring, all you need to do is squeeze the water out of the pen. And then I'm going to be choosing this orange color here. I'm not really putting too much color on the brush. And then I'm just going to lightly dab this all over the sticker label. Then when I'm ready to switch colors, all I do is give it a little swipe on my paper towel and then do the same thing. I'm just going to squeeze a little bit onto this blue color here and grab some of that, and then again just lightly dab it onto the sticker paper. So now all I'm doing is using that wet tip to kind of blend everything all together. It shouldn't have to be difficult. You just kind of like press the color all over the place and be creative with it. Don't want to be stressed out while you're doing this. It should be fun and happy. Now I'm going to color the next row down. In this I use the StazOn Jet Black, and the reason why it StazOn works great with watercolors as well is because it's a permanent ink, so the watercolor won't react with that permanent ink once you start putting that over it. StazOn ink is really great to stamp these little icons or the words onto washi tape. So if you want to create some stamps with some washi tape, you can do that as well. On the third row, again, I used VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and this time I stamped these little shoes from Sweet Stamp Shop. As you can see to the left of it, I added some little details with my marker to make them look like ballet shoes. We're going to let all of this dry once I'm done coloring, and I'm going to show you how I added those little details. So for my next example, I'm going to be coloring with Copic markers. When you're coloring a stamped image with Copic markers, you want to use Memento Tuxedo Black Dye ink. The dye ink won't react with the alcohol-based marker, so using a dye ink is best when you're using a marker like a Copic marker. And I love using these types of markers because they really blend nicely. Now another way to use these labels is to actually stamp the color that you want. So for example, I use pink for my daughter since she loves the color pink. Now I'm going to show you how I add some little details to the stamps using this Copic multi-liner in 0.05 point. It's a really thin point so I can really draw in those little details. I'm also doing a little faux calligraphy here, writing in that birthday. I'm going to do the same thing here with these little shoes. Again, making the straps on the ballet shoes and then a little bow and some ribbons to tie it all in together. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and get started. First things first is you want to remove the pages out of your planner. It makes decorating much more easier than having to struggle with pages that are stuck on the rings. If you're not familiar with my videos, I usually start by placing washi tape on the top and the bottom of my pages. I chose a watercolor theme for these pages because I've really been into watercoloring lately. So I found this really nice washi tape at Michael's, which looks like watercolor paper with some flowers on it. And then there's some pink flowers on it. So I have some pink washi tape that I will be using as well. I'm just going to place that tape all along the top of the page. The great thing about washi tape is that it is semi-transparent, and also if you decide that you don't want that type of tape, you can simply just remove it and it shouldn't ruin the pages at all. The thing about this tape is that it is much thicker than the average or usual washi tape thickness. So what I'm doing there is using my paper trimmer and just cutting it in half so that I have two even pieces of washi tape. So now that I'm done placing the washi tape, I'm using a cutting mat to trim off any excess washi tape that I have along the edges. You can use scissors to do this as well, but this is also another method of doing it. Next, I also like to use washi tape to separate all my days. So first off, I'm going to use this really nice thin washi tape by Little Bee. Oh, before I do that, I am placing those stickers that we made earlier from the list that we made onto the pages. So again, if you are scared of stamping directly onto the pages, just stamp on the label paper and then you can create these checklists for your pages. Also, you can just make a whole bunch of them for the entire month if you don't like to decorate per week like I do. If you want things ahead of time, or if you're on the go and you're decorating, you can simply make a bunch of these stickers and just keep them in your planner. So next I'm going to use this nice pink washi tape to tie in with the flowers in that floral washi tape that I put in the beginning. I realized that this tape was a little bit too thick for my needs, so I went ahead and used my paper trimmer again to cut it in half. And now I have instant thin washi tape. So now I want to just reinforce the holes with some hole reinforcements from Daiso. These are really hard to find. I don't even think I've seen them anywhere anymore. So unless you know a friend that lives in Japan, maybe they can grab some for you. Lastly, I'm putting those watercolor stickers that we've made earlier into their corresponding days. I usually put these types of events and appointments or meetings on the outside of the page. Once I'm done putting this, I'm going to add on a few more stickers to embellish these pages. I'm going to add on some of these little colored hearts. They're just the perfect color to go with my color scheme that I'm going for here. I'm going to be putting some of these pink ones and also some of these green ones. On this top left-hand corner, I usually like to write some quotes, so I simply went onto Pinterest and found this little quote here that said "Hello Spring." So I'm just going to simply copy that onto this square right here. First, I'm tracing it out with my pencil and making it sure that it's the way that I want it, and then I'm going to go over it with some markers. These are pocket color markers which I purchased from Morning Glory. Morning Glory is another type of Asian stationery gift shop that's all around California. They also have an online store which you can purchase these markers online if you're interested as well. So now I'm just placing the pages back into my planner, and I'm adding this cute little card which I purchased from Michaels, and I'm just hole punching it and placing it into my planner. I hope you guys have enjoyed these pages, and thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye!